Hey, I want to spend the next 10 minutes or so sharing with you what I learned coding with AI. So, in a previous video, I talked about what it's like to code with AI, what does it mean for the future, etc. But it's one thing to understand it theoretically, it's another thing to go deep on it. So, for example, it's one thing to hear that Tesla can drive by itself, it's another thing for you to experience it yourself. And then you start learning, oh, in this case of stop and go traffic like I'm in right now, it does really well. In other cases where it's on the street and it's making a left turn in a kind of a complex intersection, it might have a little bit difficulty. So you start understanding the capabilities and limitations, what it can do and what it can't do, and in what scenario. And then you start building up your expertise in this system. So for me, I wanted to better understand what coding looks like with AI. So this past week, I started creating a tool for myself where I could automate the process of creating translated subtitles for YouTube videos, because I'm creating these videos in English or Korean or other languages, and I want to be able to translate it. I can do it manually and it takes me about an hour and a half, but it's so tedious, like I'm not going to do it. So I'm like, the only way I would do this is if it's automated. So that's why I'm looking into this process. So through this, I learned about three different things, or I felt or learned three different things. The first thing that I felt was amazement. The fact that I can just kind of speak in normal language. Hey, this is the type of tool I'd like for you to make. And then the AI responds, sure, no problem. Here's the code. And boom, it just generates the code. It's kind of amazement. It's amazing. This is something like I would normally have to hire a developer that would cost thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to create. And I would have to invest an enormous amount of my own time. And now it gives it to me right away. It's like just amazement. The second thing that I learned was this concept of letting who's in the driver's seat. So right now, I am in the driver's seat, right? As you can see, the car is driving for me. It's on autopilot, but I am supervising, right? Now, there's that kind of mode that you can be in. But with coding, what I found was the broader temptation is to allow AI to get in the driver's seat. And what I mean by that is you'll say, hey, can you make a tool that does X, Y, Z for me? The AI doesn't ask for follow-ups. It doesn't ask whether it understands. It just assumes it understands, and it says, great, I see this is what you're trying to make. Here's the code, and blah, 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 blah. And mind you, you have no idea what the code is doing, what the code is saying, because in your head, you're like, I'm not a coder. This guy is just doing everything for me. So what I do is then I get that code, and then I paste it, and then I run the program, and it doesn't work. Error. So I get the error message, I copy the error message, I go back to the AI, I paste it, and I say, hey, this is the error I got. What do I do? And then the AI is like, oh, I'm so sorry, the error started because of this. Let me fix it for you, and then writes a bunch of code. Sometimes, here's the tricky part, sometimes the code that it writes, it was trying to change like one line, but unbeknownst to you, it deleted another line of code, which was quite important, but the AI didn't understand that apparently, and you have no idea what is going on, so it deletes it, and then the program breaks. And you're like, what the heck? And so you copy and paste the error, and then you basically keep doing this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And each time, sometimes the AI gets amnesia and then like deletes important parts of code. And this is what I mean. It's like you let the AI drive, and you're like, oh, I don't really know this area, I don't know this town, so I'm just gonna let you drive. And then you end up and you have no idea where you are. You have no idea where you are, how you got here, and so you don't even know what to do. So at that point in the coding journey, you either say, forget this. I mean, you're an hour in and you have the multiple back and forths, and the program's not working, it's broken, you have no idea how to fix it. And you can either say, okay, I'm gonna close this down and I'm just gonna start anew, you're just gonna start fresh. Most people probably will just get frustrated and they'll just say, whatever, the technology's not ready. The path that I chose is I backtracked. I tried, and this is super hard because we had so many back and forths that I didn't remember at what point did the code kind of work. Even if it didn't work, like what point did it kind of work? And I just want to go back to that and try to build off of that. It's confusing. It's really difficult. And so that's kind of like the second thing I learned of like allowing the AI to drive. The pro is you're just amazed and it kind of codes. The con is if it doesn't work, you have no idea how to fix it, and you have no idea how it works. The other alternative to that is for you to be in the driver's seat and for it to become your co-pilot. So let me give you an example of that. What you'll say is, hey AI, this is the program that I want to build, but don't give me code yet. I just want to have a conversation. I want to plan first and then let's code. And then you'll start having a dialogue of like, this is what I'm trying to build, and then you could say like, how would you build it? Kind of break it down for me. And it's like, well, first I'd try to do this, X, Y, Z, X, Y, Z. And then you'll either say, great, that looks awesome, or you'll be like, hey, I like steps 1 and 2. Number 3, that's not really what I wanted. So I'm really glad that we're talking. 3 is not really what I wanted. I'd like to solve it a different way. Can you give me a few ideas? You go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and you're like, okay, great. Now I feel like we're good. Summarize it again for me. 1, 2, 3, 4. You're like, great. That looks fantastic. Now I want you to code. Write me the code. And then it'll write you the code. And now, but even now, at least you and the AI are aligned what you're trying to do. But the next thing is, but you don't know what the code is actually doing. That's a problem. So the next step of you being in the driver's seat and AI being your co-pilot is this. You say, great. Now, the code that you just wrote looks great. Section by section, I want you to explain to me what it's doing and do it in a way that explain it so that I can understand. So it starts explaining. If you don't know, ask a question. You're like, great, I now understand high level what the code is doing. Now, I want you to go line by line and explain to me what the code is doing. And what you start learning is like, at each line of the code, what it's doing and why you're doing it. And if you have questions, you ask it, you have a back and forth. And after this, this takes much longer. I mean, an AI spits out an answer within like 10 seconds. But then this is taking 10 minutes, 20 minutes, longer, right? And the question is, why are you doing this? The answer is, it's more of an investment into you being able to learn to program. Because now, so at this point, now I understand what the code is doing. So now I'm going to have a conversation. Now I'm going to paste it. And when it doesn't work, if it works, I'm like, okay, I know what the code is doing. If it doesn't work, what I can say is, oh, it doesn't work. Let's see the error. Okay. Now I want to have a discussion. No more code, no code. I just want to have a discussion. Help me understand what are some hypotheses that you have of what's going wrong with the code. I'll tell you my guess, and then you start having a dialogue, and you're like, oh, okay, I see. So I think these are hypotheses, and you're like, well, how do we know? Is there a way that we can, before we start changing code, like, is there a way that we can like gather more information? Because I don't even know if this is the right problem. And then you can do stuff like logging. So logging means you basically add, it's like a tripwire. Like once it hits this stage, it will log something. Or so for example, like you just see that I sent over a translation, it failed. You're like, I have no idea why it failed. So I'm gonna add logging that shows precisely what text am I actually sending to AI and what am I getting back. And one time I did this yesterday, and I kept getting missing translation, like kept getting errors. And I finally added more logging, and what I discovered was it wasn't missing the translation. What it was doing was, in Korean and English, the translations are different. So let's say in English, you needed 5 lines. In Korean, you only needed 3 lines, but the content was all there, but it just made it in 3 lines. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that was the issue. So once I realized what the real issue was, then we were able to find a quicker fix. Now, if I'm driving and AI is a co-pilot, it takes much longer. But this is a more of an investment into learning how to program. So that was really cool. And I think that leads me to my third thing of what I learned is just this is actually learning how to program. Normally, the way that you learn how to program is you learn how to code, actual code, and then you kind of figure this out. But this is kind of working almost backwards, kind of. It's like you're having AI code it for you, but you're breaking it down and you're starting to learn programming. But this is a more engaging way of programming because I don't have to work on these exercises on things that I don't care about, which is often the way that you learn. Whew, everything's okay. But in this case, I'm building something that I want. It's like having a private AI tutor. That's what it essentially is. It's having a private AI tutor. So yeah, I just want to kind of share that with you. It was a really cool experience. And I just think about what does this mean for the future for those. I think this information is available for everybody. This private tutor is available for everybody, but only the people who are going to do it are the people who have enough interest, who have the perseverance to stay with it when it gets frustrating. So, I think once again, all this information that is at the tip of our fingertips, the question is, are you going to take the time to learn it? And is it important enough to you? So for me, right now, it is. So that's why I'm doing it. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share. I hope you enjoyed it and have a great day. I will hopefully get through this traffic very soon. Bye.